forward to the replay. And I wanted the main topic for today, the topic of gratitude and the law of attraction, and how can we attract things that are more preferred in our reality, how that works in a very simple way. And I also want to share some practical stuff too. How can we attract more abundance into our lives, more things that we can be more grateful of. But before we go into the topic, I wanted to share an announcement about the audiobook that is finished. I think I posted it 2 weeks ago. If you're interested in the hermetic teachings, alchemy, hermetic philosophy, you can check it out. It's when you go to my channel page, it's the first thing that pops up. And if you want to read it, you can find it in the description of each of my videos. And after that, I wanted to also share our Patreon community, an announcement about that. If you want to go deeper into these topics, for example, and other types of activities, we can do it through our Patreon community. Next week, we're going to have a live channeling session where I will be bringing through my guides, and you can communicate with them in real time through the Zoom meeting. And hello, thank you for everyone who's joining the chat as well. Like, if you have anything to share or ask, then please do so through the chat. If you're listening to the replay, you can do it in the comment sections, and I will do my best to respond to them. And I'm sending you much love and greetings from Transylvania. Like, where are you from? Greetings. Hello, Holger, A and P, Chakaranda Marie, and Higher Vibrations is here too. Like, happy Thanksgiving, and good luck with everyone's roast turkey and preparations that you're doing right now. Okay, happy Thanksgiving. Very thankful for you, Guardian and Soul family. Well, thank you for joining us. All right, so let's get into our topic of gratitude, since it is time to give thanks for many things that we have in our lives. And I think like Bashar, he also popped up recently on my radar again, is always talking about the attitude of gratitude, which is basically having a state of being in which you're grateful, thus you're allowing yourself to receive more abundance and things that you actually prefer in your life. And like many people are talking about this movie, The Secret, and the law of attraction and all that. And in my humble opinion, I think like people are overcomplicating the concept of self. Like, it's not that complicated, like how to manifest and attract stuff in your life. All the mechanisms of the cosmos are very simple, but they can be very deep and complex how they function. So if you want to go deeper into that, like the physics of how reality works, then check out the book or any type of hermetic teachings. Like the Kabbalion is a great place to start. That goes into more of the technical parts of it, like the laws of creation, basically, how they work and what you can do with it. But in this video, we're only going to talk about how to attract things that you actually prefer. And basically in the beginning, I just wanted to like dispel this illusion that many people have, that you have to learn how to manifest and how to create. And we're always doing that. Like, we wouldn't be here right now if we wouldn't be manifesting and creating non-stop. The only difference is that we have to learn right now to do it in a conscious way. And in my opinion, like, this is the main theme of our lives in this one. We have so much knowledge and coded information in our genetics, in our bloodlines, in our soul contracts, and also in our soul memories, basically from other incarnations. And this is like all like ethereal knowledge, which is not very much grounded in this reality. Like, we learn how to do these miraculous and magical stuff in other lifetimes, but now the task is to actually apply that information in a practical way in this lifetime. And I think this is our task at this point in our journey, to actually integrate that higher spiritual life, all these ethereal concepts and ways of being in a practical and conscious way in our day-to-day reality. Like, so far, if you like look back at our culture throughout the hundreds or even thousands of years, you had this separation between the spiritual life and the real day, everyday life, basically. So if you wanted to devote yourself to God or pursue a spiritual path, then you had to like isolate yourself in a monastery or ashram or whatever you prefer, and basically devote your life to that. And many of those people didn't have families or mundane jobs, or haven't really like taken part in society as the average person did. And right now we're moving to a phase in our evolution when we have already explored that, like we've learned how you can pursue that spiritual path in like in isolation, and like how it works, how to achieve enlightenment in a cave alone. But right now the task is like bringing that knowledge back into the day-to-day life and like living from that spiritual perspective in each moment and throughout your daily activities. Because I, just as it was with me, and I bet with many of you, that when we awakened to this whole grander reality and started to pursue a more spiritual path, then we kind of had our spiritual life self when we were alone, maybe reading books, meditating, listening to high vibrational music, or doing things that we preferred. And next to that, separately, we had our 3D life when you go to work, you, I know, like clean the house, take care of the kids, and all that. And I think for most of us, that was kind of separate. And I think for many of us, the task is to like merge the two together. So even in our day-to-day lives, when you go to work, when you go to the grocery store, you live from that spiritual perspective and you interact with your surroundings, with all the people around you from that higher perspective, and just like not fall back into that old 3D mindset, but actually like hold an example for all the people who are there and around you that, hey, like you can do things differently. And I think for most of us, especially like the indigo generations, like this is the, I think our main topic is like that we are like these system busters, and we destroy the old ways of society and all that, because like it just didn't work for us, because like we had a different point of view on everything. And I think not just for me, but for many of us is like, hey, like everyone is just repeating the same stuff over and over again. Like everyone is just copying everyone else and just going in the same direction. And that is like boring. And why do you do that? Like, why don't you try something else? Like, you can do things differently too. And I think for most of us, that's kind of the thing that separated us from our society or our surroundings, that we were the black sheep of the community, that we have seen and done things differently. But that's kind of the whole point of our lives, that we show different alternatives to things. Like, how can you live your life differently? It doesn't have to be the same old way for everyone, even though like many people can't even perceive that things can be done differently or you can live in a different way. We're kind of here to tread the way and show it to everyone that, yeah, like you can do things differently. Like, you can actually enjoy your life and have a happy existence if you choose to. But it takes a lot of inner work too, so it's not free. You have to put the work in. There are no shortcuts or skipping parts, basically. Okay, so let us go back to the main core of our discussion today: gratitude and the law of attraction. And in my humble opinion, and also according to my guides and much research that I have done, the whole thing of the law of attraction and how you manifest things basically works in a very simple way, that what you put out is what you get back. And I think like most of us have heard of this concept, for example, the flower of life, which one circle like represents the field of a person, of a living being, and all other circles around you, and all they are intersecting, and we're all interconnected, and we are basically in each other's fields constantly. Even if they're not around you, but you're in the field of the collective and Mother Earth, and we're all interconnected. And that works in a sense that we're constantly sending out signals, different vibrations, depending on how we feel, like what we're going through. We're like constantly emanating these radio signals out into the cosmos. and what we put out is what we get back. So let me explain that a bit more thoroughly. So maybe if we're having a bad day, I think everyone can relate to that. If you have a bad day and you feel that everything is going wrong, like nothing works out and all the things that can happen do happen, and you kind of can observe this pattern that the more you go deeper into that state of, I know, like being frustrated with life and the things they go, the more intense that experience and that reflection can become, not just by your perception, but you're actually attracting events and things that reinforce that feeling that you have inside of yourself of things not going well and not enjoying your day, basically. But what you can do with that is sometimes accept it because that's just the energy of that period. That's also a possibility. But you can like catch yourself in the middle of that whole process that, hey, like, wait a minute, like I'm going deep into something that I don't prefer. So let's just stop for a few seconds. And if you, I don't know, like if you're in a, maybe at your job or some in a family meeting or something, you can excuse yourself to the bathroom or something to pull yourself together and like realign your compass. Like, what do you want to experience? Like, how do you want to experience it? Because like these things, and we usually go down these routes when we're like not aware and present, when we're like not mindful of what we're doing, what we're feeling and thinking, and that just leads us down in a path that's usually not desired. But that's where mindfulness comes in, and like practicing of being present in your own thoughts with your feelings as well, like what you're feeling, what is going through your mind. Like, have I reacted in a so-called proper way in certain situations? Like, not necessarily like in the way that it was expected from you by others, but rather than you're working towards becoming a more, I don't know, like peaceful and balanced individual. And have I acted in a manner that is representative of the person that I want to become, or have I done the exact opposite of it? This is where being very honest and mindful of yourself is very important. That's the only way you can achieve this. And if you can't do it all the time, then it's perfectly fine. We always we always fall back to a certain extent. Okay, so Jacaranda Marie, I feel like when we hold love and compassion to all without judgment, not always easy, absolutely, and try not to get so stuck when you have a crappy day, the next moment can be surprisingly beautiful. Yes, exactly. Like, yeah, like catching yourself in the act of being in a going down in an undesired path and catching yourself in the middle of it and like course correcting towards something that you actually prefer. And yeah, like the only way you can course correct it is to hold compassion and unconditional love in yourself, or being grateful for what you are and what you have. And yeah, like just as Jacaranda Marie said, it's not easy, especially if you're in like a difficult relationship or situation. At that time, it's very difficult to tap into unconditional love, especially if you have like a history of a bad relationship or something with a person, and you have all this built up karma and like pathways in your life that you get triggered easily by whatever they do. And that situation is very difficult to shift your vibration to unconditional love and compassion. But something that is much more like easier, in my opinion, is like shifting your attention towards gratitude, because always we have something to be grateful for. Like here on planet Earth, we experience like both ends of the pole very potently. Like we have many wonderful things and we also have horrible things as well on planet Earth. And depending on where you are, what you're focusing on, you can like lean towards one or the other. And of course, you basically like experience a blend of the two to a certain extent. Like you cannot separate yourself from either of them completely because we're in duality. And planet Earth is not necessarily paradise on Earth yet. So unpleasant things can happen, but basically it's like a training ground that you can use to improve yourself. Whenever like difficult situations come up, you should actually use them to like advance yourself on your spiritual path and your evolution. Like when those challenging situations come up, they're not there to punish you or to cause you harm or distress. They are there to show you that, all right, like there is still something that is out of alignment with who you are or who you want to be. And now would be a wonderful time to actually focus on that and work with it, work with that energy or a pattern that you have. And all these challenging events or interactions with people who trigger you are basically there to show you that somewhere in your subconscious you have a belief system that makes you feel like this when you interact or when you are triggered by these specific events. And you can use these events to go deep within yourself and see like, okay, like why do I feel about this way? Like why does this thing make me feel uncomfortable or fearful or unpleasant? And this is also where mindfulness and being honest with yourself comes in very big, because that's the only way you can like get non-judgmental and non-filtered information from your higher self, and try to bypass the ego mind, trying to course correct things and color things. Yeah, like that takes a lot of practice too. But usually, like when you ask a question of your higher self or guides, the first impression or first thought that you have is the so-called correct one, because usually, yeah, like it's just like an instantaneous response to the request that you have placed. That's kind of how it works. And all the after thoughts that come after it is basically your ego mind trying to rationalize it, to color it, to discredit it, or to basically distract your attention from it, because it will take you to something that is unpleasant, and the ego mind wants to feel safe and comfortable, and it doesn't like challenges. So that's a force that you have to overcome in yourself. But yeah, like I don't have it up right now. It's closed. I shared with Higher Vibrations an awesome quote that if you only do what you can't do, what you can do, you will never become more than who you are right now. So basically challenging yourself is the only way to actually progress further into a different path. So Jacaranda Marie has asked a question. Yes, that is such a great reminder. Gratefulness is a powerful tool. Thank you for reminding us. Personally, I know I have a blessed life, but I dip down sometimes in my emotions. Yes, and we all do. Yes, and that is why the state of gratitude is far more easier and quicker to achieve than unconditional love and forgiveness. I mean, you should definitely strive towards that by all means. But it's in some situations it can be very difficult, especially if you have like much accumulated baggage and trauma in your life. Then it's very difficult to reach that state in yourself and to actually interact with people from that perspective. It took me like 10 years or so to kind of reach near to that phase. Higher vibrations, if you only do what you can do, you'll never be more than you are now. Yes, exactly. Thank you. That quote is actually from the Kung Fu Panda. Yeah. There's some really good stuff in those movies, so check it out if you're interested. I think many of the quotes that are in those cartoons are based on Taoism, and yeah, I like it very much because I think like 9 or 8 years ago I studied quite a bit Taoism, and it really resonates with me even today. But after I have discovered Hermeticism and Hermetic teachings, I like transitioned completely to that. But yeah, like if you're interested in the teachings of Lao Tzu or Lao Tse, like however you want to read it, the Taoist teachings are freaking awesome. Like they don't really go into these how creation works and all that, but basically they're like a wonderful guideline on how to live and how to have a happy and fulfilling life. packaged into beautiful small little quotes that you can memorize. They're really great. Okay, so where were we? Yes, the attitude of gratitude. Yes, and by shifting your attention to something that is actually leaning towards the positive pole inside of your being, you're changing your core vibration, which we have discussed previously, that you're constantly emanating and transmitting signals out into the cosmos, and that is which defines what you attract back into your life experience. Like what you put out is what you get back. So the only way to like maneuver and change that signal that you're emanating, regardless of what you do, like that's always transmitting, like that's a given. You can't change that. But the only way that you can change that is by actually changing your focus, putting your attention to something that is actually higher vibrational. And in my opinion, the easiest way you can do that is by being grateful, shifting your attention to gratitude, and naming and counting things that you can be grateful for in each moment or in general. And by if you're changing your core vibration, then basically you're changing the signals that you're sending out into the cosmos, and that will ultimately change what you receive back. So if you're emanating the signal of gratitude, then basically that will, by law, bring you back things that you can be even more grateful for. So the creation works in a sense that depending on what you are exploring, creation or the cosmos or God is going to like give you back more of that. So it can like amplify the experience that you're going for, like without any judgment, prejudice, or if you're doing well or you're not doing well, it has absolutely zero judgment or expectations or anything regarding what you do or what you experience. The whole thing works in a sense that it's always amplifying what you're doing. This is why it's so important, because this is where free will comes in. So you have basically the ability to explore and do what you actually want to do. Like there are no restrictions. I mean, depending on which plane you are, we can talk about some restrictions, but you have the free will to explore and do whatever you want to explore. Like there is no judgment in that. Like creation is not going to judge you for it. Like what you're exploring, have you done well or you have not done well? Have you shamed yourself, your family? Like those are all the concepts of the ego mind. Like the higher planes and higher beings don't have that. They see you for an infinite soul, an infinite creator being who is exploring at this moment something like that. So there is no judgment in it, and also seeing yourself in that light can be really helpful and like liberating when you're going through difficult situations, that you don't have to be hard on yourself. Like this is what you are exploring right now. Like there is no judgment towards that, or is it good or is it any bad? What you're exploring or doing in your life is just experience from the perspective of your higher self. And your higher self is going to do its best to amplify and assist you through that experience without any judgment or prejudice or any of that. It all depends on you what you want to experience. And the most potent way how you can actually course correct and like steer your experience in a preferred direction is being mindful of what you are experiencing, what you don't prefer, and what you actually do prefer to have in your life. And when you like clarify to yourself all the things that you like and you don't like, then you have a clearer picture on where, in which direction can you head in, basically. And the easiest way, in my opinion, is like a great practice that you can do. Maybe start out your day with this or end it. To clarify to yourself, like what do you prefer, what type of body you would like to have, what type of health do you would want to have, what types of home do you want to live in, what kinds of relationships do you want to have, what types of jobs do you want to have, what do you want to do that actually brings you joy in your life. And always look to your life, or look at your life from that perspective. Like, is what I'm doing right now or what I'm feeling right now leading me in that direction, or is it taking me away from that? goal or direction that I had for myself. And I think this is, this is again where mindfulness come in. To always like, check yourself, like depending on what you are thinking, feeling, and what you're doing. Like, am I acting in alignment with what I want to achieve in life, or I'm doing something that like contradicts it, or I'm doing something that takes me away from that goal. And we are going to do both for quite some time. So if you contradict yourself or do something that is like taking away you from that, like that's also perfectly fine. Like we are going to experience both ends of everything for quite some time, very potently, because like we are working through that phase of ironing out and tying up all the loose ends on the things that we don't prefer to have in our lives. And everything is what is happening right now in the world is like doing its best to show us what we don't prefer to have in our lives and the world that we don't prefer to live in, basically. So all the actors and all the events are there to reflect to you what is not working and what we don't prefer. And after you have consciously used it for that, then you can actually make a very strong statement to yourself and to the cosmos, like what you actually do prefer, like what type of world, what type of society you want to live in, and act accordingly, like embody that reality that you want to live in. Like that's the only way you can do it. Like it's not like going out. I mean, it's important to put things into action too, because we live in a physical reality. But the first thing you have to change is the things inside of yourself, because ultimately, as we have talked about it, like everything that you experience is just a reflection of what is happening inside of you. So if you like go out and try to fix stuff around you, but you like give absolutely no attention of all the storm that is like raging inside of you, then your efforts are going to be futile and you're just going to be frustrated, because the storm will be reflected back to you even more, because you were trying to avoid it and it's trying to get your attention. So you can look at it and work past that, basically. All right. So yeah, the best way we can transform what is around us and what we are doing and have been doing for quite some time is to fix things inside of us, to be very honest with ourselves, like what is working, what do we prefer and what we don't prefer that is happening inside of ourselves. And as you're gradually shifting and healing yourself, as you're gradually bringing up things that you don't prefer and let them go and move on to something else, the more reality shifts around us as well. Like it has no other choice but to reflect what is happening inside of us. And that is why the things that are happening in the world right now are happening, because so many people have chosen consciously to bring up all the crap and sort it out and work it out. And they have consciously decided on a collective level that we had enough of that crap and we want to actually do something that we actually prefer to do. And we want to live in a world that we actually prefer to live in, not just being forced upon us or accepted for what it is. Okay, so let me see, Jacaranda Marie. Yes, we may not have become conscious of just how we would love to live amongst each other if we didn't have these bizarre challenges. Many eyes are open, or at least starting. Yeah, I think many people are really waking up and have been for the past 2 years. It's like almost 2012 all over again. Okay, and yeah, like you had a great point of we may not have become conscious of just how we would love to live. Yeah. Yes, and since we are, yeah, like when we have came into this life, we have lost all the conscious knowledge. Well, not all of us, but mostly we have lost all the conscious knowledge of the higher realms of who we were and these other versions of reality that are far more high vibrational. So basically, planet Earth has been exploring all the ways that don't work or don't work out. And I think this is like a repeating theme in many of our lives, that when we're trying to get by in life and like find and create the life that we want to live in, excuse me, and basically we're going down all these roads that are actually not working for us. But even those are there to actually show us that, okay, like now you have explored something that didn't work for you, so you can use that to go in a different direction. And I think like it was from Thomas Edison. I think that quote is from him, that even, yeah, like about failure, in quotation marks, failure. So even if you found something not to work, or like you found 10 things that didn't work out for you, like it's not a failure. You actually found out 10 things that actually you shouldn't go down on, or something that doesn't work. So now you have a different perspective and you can go in a different direction. So you can always use these things to your advantage, regardless of what is happening. Depending on your perspective, you can always use even the most difficult situations to your advantage to actually propel yourself forward on your spiritual path. Alrighty, so mostly we have covered our topics. If anyone has any type of questions or you want to share something, that would be a wonderful time. Also, if you're watching the replay, then please do share it in the comment section, and I will do my best to reply to that. I think I have mostly brought through the information that I wanted to regarding how to shift our perspective. Yes. And if you like want to go more deeper into this topic from a more metaphysical and physics point of view, like check out the Kabbalion and hermetic teachings. If you're not familiar with it, I think I have done 3 weeks ago a type of mini presentation of the 7 laws of creation, or the 7 hermetic principles, which basically govern existence itself. Those are the 7 laws that create existence itself, and those are the laws through which we also create our own experience in this reality. And I will briefly mention the 7 of them so you can get a picture of it. The first is the law of mentalism, which is basically what we've talked about, that all is mind and what you're experiencing affects the holographic reality around you. The other one is, I'm not going to go into their order as it is in the book, but as above, as so below. It is the principle of correspondence. So basically, what you are experiencing inside of yourself, that is what is you're going to, yeah, like that's what's going to be reflected back to you. So as within, so without. And it works both ways, as it does in everything. Then you have the law of duality, which is what we have also talked about, that here on planet Earth, we experience duality to a much greater extent. The contrast between the 2 poles is much greater, not just between the negative or positive, but also divine feminine, divine masculine, dark, light, good, evil, light, darkness, whatever. Like the contrast between the 2 poles is very strong here on planet Earth because it's a lower density. And here's where it comes in, the law. This was the law of polarity. This is where it comes in the law of rhythm as well, that everything moves to according rhythm. Everything moves, everything vibrates, that's the 5th. And everything is dictated by the specific rhythm in the cosmos. You can observe this rhythm in absolutely everything, to the minutest thing that you breathe in and breathe out, like that's a small rhythm in our lives. You have the rhythm of our sleep, waking hours, you have the rhythm of the night and day. It goes up higher to the greater rhythms of the cosmos. And also, for example, what we've been seeing and experiencing, these shifts with the lunar cycles, like they always bring a different energy to the surface, depending on if it's like the full moon or new moon energies. That's also a minor rhythm, which dictates an up and down rhythm in our experience here. And I've also covered vibration, and this is where all of you know that everything is vibrating, everything is moving, everything is alive, and depending on how you transform it, how you transmute it, what you do with it, it vibrates in a specific way. And this is how you can change your reality, that you change your own state of vibration, basically, we have covered 5 and we still have 2. we have we have the principle of gender, which is the divine feminine, divine masculine. You have the 2 poles, the 2 genders, which bring about creation itself. Like everything is generated and regenerated by the divine feminine and divine masculine energies, which are represented in our Earth reality here by Mother Earth being the divine feminine, and the Heavenly Father being the divine masculine embodiments of this creational energy. And I have forgotten the 6th. I always need a list. I'm sorry. If anyone remembers, please do. I'm horrible with lists. Okay, so Jacaranda Marie just said, I like to share that I've listened to your audiobook a few times and recommended it so much. Thank you. It is a different experience than the Kabbalion. Thank you. Well, thank you for reading it and listening to it as well. Like, if anyone wants to go deeper into it, you can also download the free PDF, or it's on Google Books and also Amazon Kindle, depending on what you prefer to read. I don't have a paperback for it, but when things settle in America, then I will contact a publisher for that. But up until then, it will be present only digitally. Okay, so AP, what are your thoughts on political activism? Well, not much. For people in our collective, would you suggest that it's not a good idea to engage in it? Well, I will absolutely have no clue. Like, it depends on how and what you do. Like, I suggest like following your guidance. Like, is it okay to like share your energy with specific groups of people, or maybe some groups can be dangerous or low vibrational? I'm not sure. Like, go with your guidance. And I think like in certain cases, like sharing our energy and activating other people can be a very beneficial thing, but absolutely follow your guidance on that. But you can also do that by anchoring more light in your own life and doing planetary work and radiating that energy to other people. But if you're guided to, like go in more deeper and to be more proactive in certain parts, then by all means do so. Like, we live in a physical reality. It's not enough to just like visualize and imagine stuff. You actually have to act upon that to bring it into being, in this physical reality. Like, that's how the laws of creation work. So, Jacaranda Marie, happy Thanksgiving to all, at least the ones who celebrate. Well, happy Thanksgiving, and much love to you all. I am grateful for this life, for this experience, and for all of you brave souls who have chosen to embody now and be helpers. Well, yes, I will also extend my gratitude for all the souls who have chosen to be here during this difficult time. Yeah, like, but basically, as far as I understand it, like, many souls have volunteered for these missions, but not all of them were chosen because they didn't have the proper experience, or they weren't able to like transmute density the way we did, because it's relatively easier on the higher planes when you remember who you are. But if you like come in having absolutely no clue of who you are and how reality works, and you come into like this dangerous planets, like Earth can be a very dangerous place and also hazardous, and like having absolutely no clue how creation works and who you are and what can you do, it can be a very difficult experience. And I think most of us have went through those very difficult times when we had no clue of who we are and what can we do. And Amy, thank you so much. So the sixth law, the sixth principle is cause and effect. Yes, exactly. Just as we were saying that what you put out is what you get back. Because the cause is the vibration that you're emanating constantly from your heart center, which is created by your state of being, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, that is giving out the energy to the cosmos, and then you're receiving back the effect of the cause that you have put out into the cosmos, basically. And everything works on that basis. Okay, so Jay, what are some examples of what you do to increase your gratitude? Okay, yeah, I heard some very extreme examples, but ours are, I hope, are not that extreme. Like I remember, I think he was not my grandfather, but he could have been, like he was at the same age, who went through World War II. Oh my God, like my tongue has just tripped on that. So VV2, he went through that, and he wasn't in the concentration camps, but he lived. I think he was like taken as prisoner by the Russian army or something, and he lived in a military prison for quite a few years. And basically, he shared his story on how they survived, or at least some of them, how they managed to survive. And basically, what they have found, what really helped them, is gratitude, of just being grateful for the really, really little breadcrumb stuff that they had each day. And that was like actually what helped them through that horrible experience, that they tried to actually recognize the good things that were actually positive in each day and hold on to that as much as they could while that experience lasted. And I think that's also what we can do each day as well. Like most of us, especially in Western society, like we never really experience like what that can be. Like some of the stories that our grandparents have told us, are like they have lived through stuff that we couldn't even imagine, like going through right now. And yeah, like we have a lot of things that we can be grateful for each day, and you can like go down to the very basics, like having a roof over your head, you had a meal, maybe you have a friend who you can talk to, you have a job that can assist you to support you and your family or whatever that may be. Like they can, or you had like a pretty great 5 minutes when you drank your coffee in the sunset outside and listened to some nice music. Be grateful for that, or whatever it may be for you. You can also like create small events or like activities that brings you joy, and then you can be also grateful to yourself that you did that. Yeah, and also how to increase your gratitude is, in my opinion, and what I'm also trying to practice more and more, is even if you don't have that much time each day, but try to like put aside 10, 15 or 40 minutes, however much you can, to do something that you actually enjoy doing, that brings you joy. That can be like silly as it can get, or simple as it can get, like just going out and taking a walk with your dog in the sunset, or drinking your coffee outside while it's snowing, or whatever brings you joy. Like try to do it each day, and the more you do it, the more it builds up, and basically that's how you're raising your vibration, and that's how you're shifting your core vibration, for which you're shifting the effects that are coming back into your life experience, basically. It's not just by thinking of it and visualizing you being high vibrational, but you actually have to act upon it. Like you actually have to be proactive so you can get to your high vibrational states. I don't think I've explained that very well. But yeah, since we live in a physical reality, if you want something, you have to act upon it. So that's how it works here. And I think that's kind of the secret that many people are missing, that it's not enough to just visualize and wish for stuff. You actually have to be proactive and work towards that goal. And by that, you're putting out even more signals and energies into the cosmos that you are working towards that goal that you want to obtain, and you're amplifying that effect, basically. And it also helps you to focus, since how do I put this? Like I think like also in the teachings of Thoth is like this three-cornered gate of manifestation is like having a very strong intent. That's wonderful and great. Then you have to have like a very strong emotion, which is like fueling your manifestation. And the third one is that you have to hold focus. So you want to do something and you're very passionate about it. And this is like a very strong and good starting point. But you actually have to hold that energy, which is the third one, the focus part. You actually have to hold that energy for a more prolonged period of time, so you can like maximize the possibility of that coming into being, into your reality. And the great way of holding focus on something is actually acting upon that specific thing. Like in many cases, it can be something very tangible. Like I'm an artist, and I will use my example. For example, if I want to get better at maybe color theory, then I'm very passionate about it. I'm very clear on what I want. And the third one, to which I hold focus, is maybe do a small study, like for 10 minutes or 15 minutes each day. And that by I'm holding focus on that specific intent. And also I'm acting upon it, making it even more powerful and anchoring it in my being, basically. It's almost like if you want to get better at something, you have to practice it or learn that specific thing. Like just wishing to be a better physician or to be a high degree doctor and not going to medical school will not work. So you have to act upon your stuff. Yeah, hocus pocus, focus. Yeah, like focus. And I think like focus is our Achilles heel on this earth, since we live in a world where we can be very easily distracted. Like there are so many things that can distract your attention, especially if you have a TV, your phone in your hand, the computer turned on, or whatever happening around you. Like that can absolutely derail your focus on what you want to manifest. And also that we are mammals, we are more emotional beings, but we can also lose focus very easily. So that's to our detriment a bit. But other types of, for example, insectoids and reptoids are able to hold focus much more efficiently, but they are not as emotional as we are, or not emotional at all in some cases. So yeah, but you can practice your focus. You can, yeah, like on the internet, I think there are like different productivity gurus, or how you call them. Like I watched them to a certain point, and yeah, like they have some pretty good advice on like how to focus on stuff, and so you can achieve things more quickly and more efficiently. Maybe check those out and see what resonates for you. If you want to achieve a specific goal or task, maybe a more long term or short term, it doesn't really matter. But like creating this system for yourself and a framework through which you work can be really, really helpful in whatever type of projects you have. It's pretty much like the same thing that we were discussing at the beginning, of doing this practice of clarifying to yourself like what you want and what you don't want in your life. And when things are clearer to you, then it's much easier to act upon things that are clear to you. And it's also much easier to solve issues if the issues are clear and you're not hiding from them. Okay, what is Amy? Florence Scoval Shin says, dig your ditches. Okay. Yeah, we kind of do sometimes. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining me and joining everyone else in the chat box, or whoever was live. Thank you for being here, and thank you for watching the replay as well. Happy Thanksgiving, and practice the attitude of gratitude as much as you can in your during your Thanksgiving dinners or whatever types of activities that you will have. Try to have fun with them and radiate as much light as you can throughout your day. Thank you for being here. Much love to you all, and see you next week.